Hi everyone, welcome to Fat to Thin Senior RNY. I'm Raven. I was 76 years old when I had gastric bypass surgery on December 16, 2019. 2 weeks ago I talked about the insidious ways we stretch our stomach, or subtitle, Another Way to Sabotage Yourself Saga. In this vlog I'll be talking about my experiences on the dark side of RNY. If you're curious, please continue to watch and join me on this journey. Two weeks ago, I talked about the insidious ways we stretch our stomach, or another way to sabotage yourself. In this vlog, I'll be talking about my experiences on the dark side of RNY, medical RNY aftercare, and medical care in America from my point of view. Yvonne, a subscriber, asked about the American healthcare system. She lives in London, so she doesn't have a clue, and neither do we. I don't want to talk about this and have it sound like a rant, okay? I feel compelled to give this information, and I should have done it 2-3 weeks ago. In fact, I had planned to do this 3 weeks ago, but it kept sounding so incredibly negative to me that I just didn't want to do it. But at the same time, I feel like this is really important and should be talked about. Okay, so Yvonne asked about the American healthcare system. In my case, it's pretty close to no aftercare. I've had 2 phone visits, 2 video phone visits with the doctor. That was before Zoom became popular. It's because of COVID, really. Everybody was being really careful, and that's the way it goes. The before care, before RNY care, I had visits and nutrition visits only to qualify for the RNY surgery as far as the insurance was concerned. I've had no nutrition visits after RNY. So basically my RNY, after RNY care amounted to 2 phone calls. It may be because of not only COVID, but it may be because of Medicaid and Medicare. Doctors get paid the minimum amount. A lot of doctors don't take Medicaid or Medicare because it's the minimum payment and they've got to pay rent, you know. Then there's, of course, the HIPAA laws that says you can't share information, which means doctors can't share information. Now, when I lived in New Hampshire, I lived in the middle west of New Hampshire, where Dartmouth Hospital was prominent. Dartmouth managed to get most of the doctors in the area of all types to join in on their computer program, whatever it was called, I forget. All of the doctors signed into the database. All of the information was right there in front of everybody. Everything was updated immediately because the doctors were putting it. It was updated as they were putting it in while they were sitting there with you, you know. Here in Nevada, there are no records together. Absolutely nobody knows who's talking to who about whatever. My heart doctor gave me paper, and my RNY doctor, the surgeon, gave me paperwork to give to my primary. We need to have all of our records follow us everywhere we go, no matter where we go, so that everybody can see everything and see what's been tried, what hasn't been tried. We don't repeat the same stuff, you know. In America, you have to buy health insurance or be below the poverty level or infirm or elderly to get it free. In 2019, the last time that I could find a record of what the poverty level was, there was 34 million people who live below the poverty line. So that means, of course, that they're eligible for medical care. The poverty threshold in the United States was defined in 2018 as a 4-person household earning $25,000 or less. If you're living exclusively on Social Security, then you're living below the poverty line. Now, that comes about because we're women. Most of the people who are on Social Security living below the poverty line are women. And that's because during my generation, you only went to work for pocket money. There was no such thing as going to work because you had to. I mean, even if you had to, you didn't say that. You went to work because you needed change. You wanted to get some new makeup or whatever. So they didn't pay you as much, you know. Not only that, you weren't allowed to take a lot of jobs anyway because you were a woman. And then, of course, they sell things to women, and they still do sell women with just slightly different packaging with higher prices. For instance, deodorant. If you look at some of the deodorants, you'll see that they're exactly the same. They even have the same fragrances on some cases. The only difference is the color of the outside of the package, and you'll pay $2 more for it. And in America, most women know that if you want a good pair of work pants, you buy a pair of men's jeans, period. Women's clothes don't have pockets. You know, it's just crazy what they do, you know. Anyway, so that's why Social Security is so low, because, you know, you didn't make any money. And even now, it's kind of still sort of looked down upon that women are working and you don't get paid as much for the same job, exactly the same job, you don't get paid as much. So therefore they don't take out as much Social Security. So you're kind of lost all the way around here. In America, having health insurance, is free or not, means that you have to pay for some things, like ambulances. Yes, ambulances. They will bill you, usually 6 months later when you forgot about it. Emergency hospitalization is also something that you will have to pay for if they don't keep you in the hospital for 3 days. You'll have to pay for that. Which reminds me, you're talking about emergencies. I had a boss once in a job I worked where I had to leave in the middle of the day because there was an emergency. When I got back to work the next day, she called me into the office and told me, the next time I have an emergency, I'm to give her 24 hours notice. Yes, I had a boss like that. Not only that, not only do you have to pay for your emergency, your hospital stays and stuff, even if you have insurance, even if you paid for the insurance, you still, and some doctors have to pay a copay. It's like $15, $25, depending upon your plan. Now, if you're making $7 an hour, $15 is 2 hours worth of work. It's a lot of money. And in most cases, you have to pay for specialists, period. X-rays and other supporting tests, including blood tests, in most cases, depending upon your plan, you have a copay. You know, these $15 is add up, you know. There's a tiny, tiny, tiny little allowance for hearing aids or dentures or any kind of dental care. And you're only allowed 1 pair of eyeglasses per year, and it's chosen from a group of eyeglass frames that are distinctly lower class. You cannot get things like scratch-resistant coatings or nothing like that. Just straight eyeglasses, and you get 1 per year. If you lose it, tough toogies. chiropractors, acupuncturists, etc. are not paid for by insurance companies. So if you want to go to a chiropractor, you pull that money out of your pocket. A lot of medications are not covered by insurance. They will cover generic drugs, sort of. I mean, in some cases you have to pay minimal, like $4. In some cases you don't pay anything. If it's a drug that it doesn't have a generic, you're pretty much out of luck. You're going to have to come out of pocket for that. So your best bet is to get one of those phone apps and search the country to find out where you can get your drugs cheaper. They even have, I mean, a lot of people go up into Canada. A lot of people go into Mexico to get their drugs, because a lot of them are made in Mexico. The only difference is the label is in Spanish. And you can get them for like 1/3 the price or less than you can here, which is still exorbitant in a lot of things. So basically, if you're short on money, which anybody who is on poverty level is, you're out of luck. Totally out of luck, okay? Healthcare also depends upon where you live. Cities get better stuff than rural counties. But city services are overcrowded. I mean, it's just amazing. The plans are different in different parts of the country, even from the same companies, because of the population density or whatever story they make up. Not only that, you're restricted to the doctors who are part of your system. So if you belong to Blue Cross Blue Shield, you'll have different doctors than that belong to Humana, unless that doctor belongs to both, which is not always the case. So if you need a specialist that's in somebody else's system, you're going to have to come out of my pocket for that. Doctors in general get about 15 minutes to talk to you. And if they don't stay on schedule, the nurses will knock on the door and say you're running over time. I don't know what you can say to them. And you can see them at most about once every 3 months. So you've got 15 minutes about once every 3 months to get whatever it is that you need done or talked about or decided on or something. Referrals take a lot of time. The ghettos and rural areas, no matter what kind of ghetto, what type, doesn't matter, have low access to medical care. Black ghettos are not only low on the healthcare spectrum, they also have grocery, pharmacy, and hospital deserts. That means vast areas with not one grocery store. So that you have to leave the neighborhood in order to find an apple. You know what I mean? As I said before, you also have to pay specialists, you have to pay for hearing aids, you have to pay for your dentists. I think everyone knows that if your teeth aren't in good condition, your health isn't really. And if you can't see what can, you know, I don't understand why they're not covered, okay? I just don't. I mean, I've heard the politics of it, but it doesn't make any sense to me. 50 years ago, when I was like 25, I used to use herbs for healthcare. I mean, my kids were little then. The only healthcare that they got was that they could go to the baby clinic and get their shots. You could get your shots for free at that time, I remember. And because the government was so crazy about everybody should be vaccinated, the mother got vaccinated too. Now, I've had at least 3 rounds of vaccinations, you know. So I'm not going to get mumps, measles, anything like that, okay? I had to learn about herbs in order to keep them healthy. I had to do something, you know. So I figured the current medications are derived from herbs or barks or roots or things like that. So I started learning, started taking care of it. I raised my children as best I could with what I had, as we all do, right? I finally got health care through a job when I was in my 40s. That was a major coup, let me tell you. And I took advantage of the doctors. At that time, I was having a problem with bronchitis and that kind of stuff. I think it was because I was living in the city, you know, I was allergic to dirt, whatever. Anyway, I started with meds for bronchial infections. Well, little did I know that I was having side effects, because I was young, I was stupid. I never suspected side effects. They gave me meds for the side effects. So now we've got 2 drugs instead of 1. And if I stopped taking the first one, I wouldn't have had to take the second, but you know how it goes. So 3rd, 4th, and 5th. I finally realized what was going on after about 10 years of this stuff. And I stopped taking all of the drugs. I mean, I got off of them the way they were supposed to be gotten off of. I got off of them correctly, but I got off of them. I would go to the doctors after that, and they would be amazed that I wasn't on something. I had to be on some kind of pharmaceutical. Come on, aren't you taking aspirins or something? No, I'm not. Even when I went to the RNY, I went for my RNY, which is funny, the nurses kept asking me what meds I was on, and I would, after a while, I just started telling them about different herbs that I might be using at that time. And you could physically see them relax, because it was so unusual and almost stressful for them to not be able to fill out that line on that form, because obviously everybody has got taken something. I started the drug roller coaster again after this RNY, when I had a potassium shortage, whatever, and my heart palpitations, and I was throwing up a lot. I think I spent a month after the RNY throwing up every day, all day long. So obviously I was low on potassium. But anyhow, I wasn't thinking. Obviously I couldn't think. I had fog from lack of potassium. But it's a good thing I knew what it was like not to be on some kind of drugs, you know. But even so, I still wasn't thinking. So they sent me to a heart doctor who put me on atenolol. Then I went to another doctor who put me on metoprolol. And then the same doctor changed that to propranolol for my request. I thought it would be less invasive. Anyway, I dropped the propranolol. I've stopped taking all of them because I was sick. I spoke via email with my doctor. I experienced foot drop, and you know, where your foot just, it doesn't pick up and it kind of hangs, you know. And then I fell onto the concrete, when fortunately not on, well, onto the concrete pad that's outside of my neighbor's house. And I had thought that I raised my foot up to step on that concrete, but it wasn't there. My foot and my leg now have numbness. At the time, I thought my legs were dying. My hands were numb. Actually, I had taken a plate out of the microwave and put it on the table, and I grabbed it with my hand, and I was holding on to it. And then I said, oh, that's hot. I should have jumped. I should have, you know, but my hands are numb in spots now. But all of this is getting better. And I think all of this started because these doctors are not in touch with each other. They don't know what each other is doing. And they don't have time to sit and read pages and pages and pages of paperwork, because they only have 15 minutes to talk to you, you know, and they're trying to sum up your life and help you out in 15 minutes. You know, it's just impossible. If they had all of the information, they could skim down through it, see what was pertinent to them, and go from there, you know, but they don't, because of the HIPAA law, the privacy laws. Anyway, I never really kept track of these symptoms. You know, I'd complain a little bit about them, you know, but I never kept track of them, except for the migraines. For the migraines, I was right on with that, but I never had a doctor that was willing to look at that paperwork. I didn't really complain about pains in my body unless it was something like when I tore out my rotator cuff, you know. And even that, you know, the American medical system. I tore out the rotator cuff. I went to the doctor, said, man, there's a lot of pain here. You know, I've been massaging it for about a week, but it's just not going away. It's getting worse, blah, blah, blah. I can't lift my arm. I can lift my arm up, but I can't hold anything. You know, it was that kind of a thing. He sends me to physical therapy. I can get into physical therapy about, I don't know, 2 weeks later. I go for 3 or 4 physical therapy things. Meanwhile, nobody has x-rayed the shoulder. Nobody has looked at the shoulder, right? Okay? Except physical therapy has felt it up, you know, but nobody's looked inside the shoulder to see what the hell's going on. And it's not getting any better. So finally, they send me to a surgeon. So, anyway. So, during this propranolol thing, I'm sorry, this is really going for a long time, but during this propranolol thing, and I'm walking a lot, and I'm trying to get my distance up and stuff like this, and I know that the last time I got my distance up, within a year, I was doing a hell of a lot more than 2.5, 3 miles a day. And in this case, I'm doing 3 miles within, you know, an hour, a mile and a half one walk, and a mile and a half the next walk, or maybe even a mile or less. And I can't seem to get it up. So I bought new shoes, as I remember telling you about. Paid $118 for these shoes. And they started falling apart. So I wrote to the company. They sent me another pair of shoes, but they didn't fit right. I said, wow, they made the sizes, you know, I don't know why the sizes aren't consistent, you know, because they were both size 9. So then I started buying other shoes. Anyway, within, let's say, 6 months now, I have bought 4 pairs of shoes. Now, and they are all different sizes, different widths. I find that I can wear some in the morning and different ones in the evening. But it never occurred to me that my circulation was dying, that my foot was dying, that the nerve endings in my foot was dying, and that's really what was causing the discomfort and the pain, and why I couldn't pick up the pace. And of course, I'm taking this heart medication that's slowing down my heart. So, you know, where do you go from there? Anyway, I found that after a while walking, if I turned my head, you know, to look over my shoulder to check for traffic, I would fall that way. You know. So it's a good thing I was walking with walking sticks, you know. I just couldn't seem to pick up the pace, right? Then I started losing days. I was joking with my daughter about it. But after a while, after a couple of weeks of this, it wasn't really funny anymore. But what was really bizarre is that I never said anything to the doctor. So how's he going to know? You know, until finally I fell and I said, look, I'm off of this stuff, you know. So since then I found out as much as I possibly could about neuropathy. I've been doing exercises for it and that kind of thing to reverse it if I can. As from what I understand, it is possible to reverse some of it. And I think the biggest thing about reversing it is starting right away. You know, if I had waited until I got to see the doctor, which is 2 more months from now, and then I would have had to wait for referral. The referral comes in the mail, which means there's another week, maybe 2, because it's got to go through the insurance company who gives approval, who may not give approval for you to go see that physical therapist. So I started massage, and I've started, I gotten off of those pills. I've started taking potassium, magnesium, 𝗿𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒃 acid. I don't know, that's backwards, but that's what it is. That is supposed to has, now the funny thing about this particular one is that in Germany, for at least the last 10 years, they will prescribe 𝗿𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒃 acid for neuropathy before they ever go to any kind of pharmaceutical. We don't do that in America. It's pharmaceuticals first, and anything else is suspect. Okay, you don't go for acupressure or acupuncture or anything like that because, you know. And the last thing I want to talk about this American healthcare. I live in a town of 50,000 people. That's the standard. I mean, you know, during, what do you call it, when people come in, during tourist seasons, it goes considerably higher. There is no place in town, not one place in this town, where you can go to get a COVID vaccine. No one is offering it. I drove 1.5 hours, that's 3 hours round trip, to go to a Walmart supercenter in Vegas to get a vaccine. Crazy. You can go to the drugstore to get tested. One drugstore in town, in this town of 50,000 people, to get tested. But you have to make an appointment online. It's usually a week away, and there are no instant tests available. So it comes down to, I've only got one body. I can't get into anybody else's body to see what's normal, what's not, what their body is like. I mean, they can tell me stuff, but then they forget stuff like I forget stuff, you know. My body didn't come with a manual, and the doctors haven't seen it either. So it's pretty much up to me to tell them everything somehow in 15 minutes. 3 times a year, 4 times a year. So Yvonne, I hope this answers your question. Really, I know you have an interest in this kind of thing. Universal health care sounds wonderful to me, but I don't really know how it operates in England. So how does it, you know? And I'm on the lower spectrum of health care in America. What about somebody else? Somebody's experience. I mean, it's middle class. What is it for you, you know? What's your dark side story? Generally, my dark side story has to do with generally there is no care. Okay? There is no care. It's very spotty, and it's downright dangerous, okay? So, remember this. If you're going to get yourself cut open, that some people don't make it out alive, and a bunch have problems because of it, you need to stay vigilant. You need to be aware. Somehow, it took me, 13 months to figure out that my legs were dying. I've had to save them before, and I'm going to save them again. So anyway, on to my Rowley report. Rowley's been at my side. I mean, he just doesn't seem to want to leave me since I fell, which was a couple of weeks ago now. He constantly wants me to play with him. I guess when he sees me get too quiet, he wants me to feel better, I think it is. He's a good dog. He's a loving dog, and he's down here. Then I'm petting. Come here, let's see. So people can see you. What you look like. There you go. This is my dog. There you go. See? So to sum up, I'm feeling good. Now, you would think with all of this stuff going on that I don't feel good, but I actually feel better than before I had the RNY. I feel a lot better than before the RNY. Other than the rant above, I've got nothing really to complain about. I'd make that choice for surgery again, even with the difficulties. It's opened up my life, and I look at things differently now. I spot stuff sooner than I used to. So please subscribe, comment, and share this video. Okay? Don't forget to click show more and see the stuff in the description below. I put a lot of stuff down there that I came across this week. Thank you for watching and listening, and thanks for subscribing. See you next Friday. Take care of you and yours, and blessed be.